Semifinal 2, let's go. Bashful Shark versus Feisty Snail. On my left, I have Bashful Shark. On my right, Feisty Snail. Bashful Shark won 4-1 last time, and Feisty Snail sneaked out a close victory in the quarterfinals, the closest match so far, 3-2. Going to be drinking both these teas. Already have steep 1 here. Brewing similar colors for both of them, and let's take a quick smell. Very classical here from Bashful Shark. Clean, woody, yeah, pretty on the nose. And Feisty Snail is the especially really heavy in that lumber. My guess was white tea, something like Camphornought or Lumber Slut. Yeah, and we will start with Bashful Shark, going from left to right. Cheers. Vanilla, creamy, pretty simple, woody, fairly aromatic, in just a very standard ripe sense. So yeah, this one to me crosses a very down the line ripe. Nothing terribly atypical about this tea. The Feisty Snail, in my initial take of it, felt fairly different in a interesting way. So we'll go over to that now. There's a decent sweetness to it. Bashful Shark, a little bit thin on that first steep. It's good. It's not blowing me away either. So Feisty Snail, here we go. It's a little bit thicker body. Definitely very heavy on the woodiness. In a lot of ways, this is also a fairly simple tea, but I do like the profile of that. I like the thickness. There's a little bit of oiliness to it. So I think I definitely prefer Feisty Snail on round 1. I could see people being a little bit split on these. Feisty Snail, it kind of depends if you'd like something a little bit off the normal beaten ripe path versus Bashful Shark, which I think comes across to me as far more standard and classical in a good way, but you know, it's there's a lot of teas that have that sort of profile. And let's go to steep number 2. Yeah, so confirming a lot of that, a little bit higher noted for the Bashful Shark versus like heavy bass woody tones on the Feisty Snail. Gonna start over on the Feisty Snail to start us off here. Go for about 15-20 seconds again. So far, we have had all the factory teas be eliminated. So we do know that these are both boutiques left, as well as, I believe, Ancient Shrimp, which is the finalist in waiting. So I'm really curious at what the other, the non-white tea vendor is in here. We've already had Crimson Lotus Tea and Bitterleaf Teas eliminated, as well as Xiaguan, Haiwan, and Munghai Tea Factory in the semifinals with the 7572. So presumably Yunnan sourcing and white tea and something else are left. So definitely a little bit darker, kind of what you expect as far as like a second steep goes. I give ripe just 1 rinse, using 4.5 grams, 75 milliliters here. Pretty similar color, maybe a touch lighter, but pretty similar. Okay, so let's take a smell. Not much going on in that aroma there. Pretty normal stuff. Stronger on this, and again, heavy in that really woody, some people might call it camphor. I'm not really sure. I've heard some people say that that adjective mainly just applies to raw when it has that sort of like menthol mintiness to it. I don't know. This one kind of has the ripe version of that. If you've had enough ripe or raw, you probably know what I'm talking about there. Cheers. Yeah, a little still in that vein. Kind of a little bit more creaminess to this, maybe a little bit of vanilla, but still it's like 85% that really heavy woody lumber profile. Body is nice and thick, nice and oily. So yeah, pretty solid again on steep number 2. Feisty Snail, I believe in the last round, it was pretty unchanging round to round, and here it seems to be bringing that same sort of consistency. Yeah, just a nice, thick, robust brew. Okay, let's go back over to the shark. Nice sweetness to it as well. So it definitely plays around more with the higher notes on this one. Just a little more of an aromatic brew. It's also thickened in a good way. I'd say bodies are closer to equal on this steep. Yeah, nice thickness. Yeah, again, this tea pretty standard down the line. I'd say the one thing that really does improve it this time is the body of it has picked up considerably. So maybe it's just really opened up there in the Haiwan, and so it's performing a bit better as a result. Yeah, nice thickness, nice sweetness to this. Feisty Snail probably still just a tad thicker. This round's very close, though. It is very close. I might still give this to Feisty Snail by a hair, but definitely a little bit closer than the previous round. So if that trend continues, maybe I'll go 4 steeps. But if I still prefer Feisty Snail on steep 3, then I think it's safe to reveal. Bashful Shark is clearly a pretty decent tea. It's just, I think I personally am more a fan of the Feisty Snail profile. So again, go for 15-20 seconds here. And getting a real nice dark brew. And I tend to like ripes when we're getting more in this category. Of course, it depends on the ripe too. Some ripes are either lesser fermented or they're just a little bit of a different character. 7581, notably for me, brews a little bit. I prefer that when it brews a little bit of that deep dark red rather than total darkness like this. I think both of these are teas where I like it when it's brewing like a heavier, a dark brown or even black, pitch black color to it. So trying to keep these steeps pretty even. Bashful Shark definitely pretty fully coming apart here. Looks like fairly small leaves in there. And let's go now with Feisty Snail. So if anything, I think Bashful Shark might be a tad darker on this go around. And we'll start with that after we take a quick smell. Same, each steep more or less the same. Smells decent, smells like a ripe. Shocking. So here we go, Bashful Shark, let's go. Pretty good, honestly. A little creaminess. I believe this is the tea where I said last time I was picking up on a little bit of bitterness, so I'm going to look out a little bit for that in this steep. Reminded me a little bit of the Wang in that way, from Yunnan sourcing. And this is solid. It really is bringing more of that texture. It's changing a lot more steep to steep than the snail. Yeah, it has a really lovely kind of mineral resin and slight silk texture to it. So definitely winning in that respect. Cheers. So a little thicker and still continuing just that profile. I would definitely say the Bashful Shark is the more complex tea. And these are running pretty close together now at this point. Thick, oily, woody. Very close. Okay, go back to the shark. Yeah, Feisty Snail has a thing for getting into very tight matches. I might need to give this round slightly in a similar way to round 2 to Bashful Shark. So basically I'm rewarding a little more complexity in aromatics versus like this more strong and heavy base that I'm getting from the snail. So I'm going to go for round 4 here. And we'll see. Again, round 2 and 3 were very close. So I am still slightly favoring Feisty Snail, but let's see what round 4. Okay. So we will give these both a brew, and last time we went the other way, so starting out this way. You know, it might also be the case too that as I drink these teas, I find the Bashful Shark to just be a little more engaging on account of that extra just layers and changing of flavors versus the overall consistency of the snail. Yeah, it's I could see the snail definitely being a little bit more of a daily drinker or like a regular work brew for me in that sense. Looks like it lightened up just a bit. Interesting. Just because when you are working and for me usually ripes are more just like, as I've said a few times in the course of these episodes, workhorse teas. You don't necessarily want the tea to be changing, and that might be an aspect that you ignore or don't appreciate as much. And so having just that real reliable brew and something like the snail when I'm brewing in my big blue pot could be preferable in a way. But we'll see. Yeah, these teas definitely have me torn. It's definitely going to be a 3-2 match between them. And let's go. Color-wise, maybe Shark slightly darker by my eye. But running pretty neck and neck. We'll also take an examination of the leaves now. So smaller leaves, fairly dark, not completely blackened for the shark. I wouldn't say it's a lower fermented blend or anything. Pretty dark as well for this. Yeah, I would say they're both clearly blends of some sort. Probably the snail might have slightly lighter leaves, but it's pretty close overall, I'd say. Okay, so let's take a sip here with the snail. Lightening up just a little bit. Still overall pretty thick, oily, vanilla cream wood. Blah blah blah. We know the profile. Okay, shark. I feel like it has slightly converged a little bit in terms of flavor profile to being a little more woody in a way that's similar to the snail. Nice textures to this. Man, this is so close. I think I'm going to give it to Shark. I think I slightly prefer it again. And given that the first steep, I think, is a little bit more, I think it was just opening up. I'm going to, let me see if I can change my mind once more. Yeah, I just think that it brings a little more to the table than the snail, which wins on just thickness and body and wood. So let's see what the snail is. Kind of a come behind victory here. And so Bashful Shark will be against AS in the finals. And so Snail, let's see what you are. And, yep, I was correct. White to Tea, 2020, Camphornought. So just a very, very unique, distinct profile that I think is really quite solid. Definitely a tea I would recommend. So it has a knack for the closest matches. Bashful Shark wins in a 3-2 match. And we'll be going on to the finals. So stay tuned next week for that. Cheers. And here we have semifinal number 2, and a very close decision here. Glowing Spider winning 18-17 over Civilized Shrimp. Yeah, I had neither of these teas here. Probably I would have picked Civilized Shrimp. I've sort of had the opportunity over the past week to go back and re-drink some of these. I think there are certain teas that probably stand out a little bit more when you're doing the side-by-side, and other teas that perform a little bit better when you're just having them as you would on your own. For me, it's that sort of big balut pot. And for me, I think teas like the Civilized Shrimp, as well as the Munghai and Xiaguan, are teas that I personally do like a lot. Is just sort of like those regular daily teas. They tend to be very consistent and give sort of just a solid, very robust profile. But here you have it, Glowing Spider going on to the finals. So in the finals, we will have Glowing Spider, which I eliminated in the quarterfinals, and Debonair Skunk, which I eliminated in the semifinals. So you know both of those teas already. So I'll be very curious. Actually, I still don't have the results for the finals, what the judges will pick there. And yeah, it just goes to show you that depending on the person, you really can land on very different conclusions on these blind tastings. I've been slowly re-drinking these, and you know what? My opinions generally line up with what they were in the blind taste. So even knowing the results and stuff like that, I haven't really felt the need to retract or go back on them. I may have rated Muse Scorpion a little bit lower, but I can sort of I still think I would probably pick it over the teas I picked it above. I think the lower part of the bracket was a little bit stronger. Definitely some pretty strong candidates coming from that half of it. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll stay tuned for the finals.